Mira walked through the silver halls of Nexus Prime Academy with careful steps. Her pale blue skin looked perfect under the soft lights. Her breathing was slow and steady like all Catherians. Nobody looked twice at her as she passed by other students. She had been doing this for 3 years now. Every morning she checked her biomimetic implants in the mirror. The small devices under her skin changed her appearance completely. They made her look like she belonged to the peaceful Catherian race. They changed her skin color and even her body temperature. The hardest part was not the technology. The hardest part was acting like someone she was not. Mira entered her first class of the day. Advanced Stellar Engineering filled the large room with students from 12 different species. She took her usual seat in the third row, not too close to seem eager, not too far to seem disinterested. Everything had to be perfectly normal. Professor Kell stood at the front. His forearms moved as he spoke about fusion reactor designs. Mira listened carefully while writing notes. She made sure to write at the same speed as her classmates. Human minds worked faster than most species. She had learned to slow down her thoughts to match others. Miss Lee, Professor Kell called her name. Can you solve the energy output equation on the board? Mira stood up slowly. She walked to the front and picked up the light pen. The equation was complex, but she could see the answer immediately. Her human brain processed the numbers in seconds, but she pretended to think for 30 seconds before writing the solution. Correct as always, Professor Kell said, though perhaps you could show your work next time. Mira nodded and returned to her seat. She felt eyes watching her. Kim Do-hyun sat 2 seats away. His crystalline skin caught the light as he turned to look at her. Do-hyun was Xyrillian and very smart. Sometimes Mira worried he noticed things others missed. After class, Mira walked to the dining hall. The massive room buzzed with conversations in dozens of languages. She got her food tray and looked for her friends. They sat at their usual table near the tall windows that showed the stars outside. Mira, Choi Yuna waved her over. Yuna was Valdorian and could sense emotions. Her large golden eyes were always warm when she looked at Mira. We saved you a seat. Mira sat down next to Han Min-soo. The Gorvani student was reading something on his datapad while eating. His species valued logic above everything else. Min-soo rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. How was engineering class? Do-hyun asked. His voice made small music notes as he spoke. All Xyrillians sounded like they were singing. Fine, Mira said. She picked at her food carefully. Human teeth were different from Catherian teeth. She had to eat slowly and chew differently. Professor Kell asked me to solve an equation. You always get the hard questions, Yuna said. I think he likes testing the quiet students. Mira smiled but said nothing. She was quiet because Catherians were naturally quiet. But the real reason was different. Every word she spoke had to be careful. Every expression had to be controlled. One mistake could give away what she really was. The conversation moved to other topics. Yuna talked about her art class. Do-hyun mentioned a new discovery in quantum science. Min-soo shared data about ship engine improvements. Mira listened and responded when needed. She had become very good at seeming interested without saying too much. Later that day, Mira attended her combat training class. This was always the hardest time for her. The class practiced different fighting styles from across the galaxy. Each species had their own way of fighting based on their biology. Catherians were not fighters. They were peaceful and avoided conflict. Mira had to hold back all her natural reflexes. Human bodies were built for fighting. Her muscles wanted to move faster. Her mind wanted to find weaknesses in her opponents. Her instincts screamed at her to fight harder. Instead, she moved like a Catherian would, slow and defensive. She let others win against her in sparring matches. She pretended to get tired quickly. Every move had to look natural for her fake species. Remember, Instructor Vex called out, combat is not about winning. It is about understanding how different species approach conflict. Mira nodded along with the other students, but inside she knew something they did not. Humans approached conflict by never giving up. They fought until they won or until they could not fight anymore. That was why the galaxy had tried to destroy them all. After combat class, Mira went to her small room in the student dormitory. She locked the door and finally relaxed. Her shoulders dropped. Her breathing became deeper. For a few minutes each day, she could stop pretending. She looked at herself in the mirror. The biomimetic implants made her look like a perfect Catherian student. But underneath, she was something the galaxy feared more than any monster. She was human. Mira had been 8 years old when the ships came to her hidden colony. Her parents told her to hide in the emergency pod. They told her they would come back for her. They never did. The pod had drifted in space for days before a smuggler found her. The smuggler was kind but scared. Everyone knew what happened to humans. The galaxy had decided they were too dangerous to exist. The smuggler took her to a black market doctor. The doctor gave her the implants and taught her how to act like a Catherian. He told her to never reveal what she really was. He told her that even one human could start another war. Now she was 18 and still hiding. 3 years at the academy had been the happiest of her life. She had friends who cared about her. She had teachers who respected her work. She had a future that looked bright, but every day she lived in fear. Fear that someone would discover her secret. Fear that her friends would learn the truth and turn away from her. Fear that the galaxy would finish what it started 50 years ago. Mira touched the small device hidden under her collar. It was an emergency transmitter. If her cover was blown, it would signal the few other human survivors scattered across the galaxy. They would know to run and hide deeper. She hoped she would never have to use it. Tomorrow would bring new classes, new challenges, and new chances to slip up. But tonight she was safe. Tonight she was just another student at the galaxy's best academy. Mira did not know that tomorrow everything would change. She did not know that a simple training mission would test her in ways she never expected. She did not know that keeping her secret would soon become impossible, but that was tomorrow. Tonight she practiced her Catherian breathing exercises and prepared for another day of being someone else. The transport ship Stellar Wind carried 20 students through the asteroid belt. Mira sat with her 3 friends near the back of the passenger section. Outside the windows, giant rocks floated in the darkness between stars. "This mining simulation will be easy," Yuna said. Her golden eyes sparkled with excitement. "We just need to identify the best asteroids and plan extraction routes." Do-hyun nodded, his crystalline skin catching the light from the control panels. "The Xerillian approach is to calculate density and mineral composition first." Minsu looked up from his datapad. "Logical. But Gorvani methods focus on energy efficiency in the extraction process." Mira listened to her friends debate mining techniques. She had studied all the different species' approaches to asteroid mining. Humans would do it differently than any of them. Humans would find the most dangerous asteroids with the richest minerals and figure out how to mine them safely. But she kept that thought to herself. Professor Nam Tae-hyun stood at the front of the ship. The Valdorian instructor was known for his tough simulations. His blue skin had darker patterns that showed his age and experience. "Students," he announced, "we are approaching the Helix asteroid field. Your task is to work in mixed species teams to identify and plan mining operations. You have 6 hours to complete your analysis." The ship shuddered slightly as it entered the asteroid field. Mira felt the change in movement but noticed something odd. The shudder was too strong for normal navigation adjustments. Captain Roth came over the intercom. His voice sounded worried. "Professor Nam, please come to the bridge. We have a technical issue." Professor Nam left quickly. The students continued working on their projects, but Mira watched the professor through the bridge window. She could see him talking urgently with the captain. Their body language showed stress and concern. 10 minutes later, the lights flickered. The ship's hum changed to a different tone. Something was wrong with the engines. "Attention, passengers." Captain Roth's voice came through the speakers again. "We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please remain calm while we work on repairs." But Mira could smell the fear coming from other students. Valdorians like Yuna released pheromones when scared. Xerillians like Do-hyun made high-pitched sounds. Even logical Gorvani like Minsu showed stress by tapping patterns with their fingers. The ship shook again, much harder this time. Several students cried out. Some fell from their seats. "The navigation system is failing," Do-hyun said, reading data from his personal scanner. "We are drifting off course." Through the windows, Mira could see they were moving toward a cluster of asteroids. The rocks were getting closer and bigger. If they hit one, the ship would be destroyed. Another alarm started beeping. This one was different. Mira recognized it from safety training. It was the radiation warning alarm. Professor Nam came back from the bridge. His face was grim. "Students, we have multiple system failures. Life support is operating at 60%. Navigation is offline. We are drifting toward a radiation storm." Panic spread through the passenger section. A Krek student roared in fear. Several Etherian students started crying. Everyone knew that radiation storms were deadly to most species. The rescue ships cannot reach us before we hit the storm, Professor Nam continued. We need to make emergency repairs or we will all die. Mira felt something change inside her. Her human instincts were waking up. In crisis situations, humans became more focused, not less. They became calmer, not more panicked. They started solving problems instead of worrying about them. She stood up and walked to the front of the ship. What systems are still working? She asked Professor Nam. Miss Lee, please sit down. The crew will handle this. The crew is only 3 people, Mira said. You have 20 students here. Some of us can help. Other students looked at her with surprise. Catherians were not leaders. They did not take charge in crisis situations. But Mira could not help herself. Every human instinct told her to act. She is right, Dohyun said, standing up. Xerillians have experience with ship systems. Gorvani engineering knowledge could be useful, Minsu added, also rising. Soon half the students were offering to help. Professor Nam looked uncertain but nodded. Very well, but follow instructions exactly. Mira found herself organizing the students into teams. She sent Dohyun and 2 others to check the navigation computers. She asked Minsu to examine the life support systems. She put Yuna in charge of monitoring everyone's health. What about you? Professor Nam asked Mira. What will you do? Mira looked at the radiation readings on the wall display. The numbers were climbing fast. Most species would be sick within an hour, dead within 6 hours. I will help with whatever needs doing, she said. The next few hours became a blur of activity. Mira moved between different teams, helping wherever she could. She carried heavy equipment that should have been too much for a Catherian. She worked in areas with higher radiation that made other students sick. When Yuna collapsed from radiation exposure, Mira rushed to help her. She pulled her friend away from the damaged section and gave her medicine. But she noticed something strange. Other students were getting weaker as time passed. Mira was getting stronger. The crisis was awakening something in her that had been sleeping for 3 years. Her human body was adapting to the radiation. Her human mind was processing multiple problems at once. Her human spirit refused to accept that they might all die. Mira, Dohyun called from the navigation station. Can you help me with this calculation? I cannot figure out the trajectory. Mira looked at the numbers on his screen. The math was complex, but she could see the pattern immediately. She started to write the solution but stopped herself. The answer had come too quickly. A Catherian would need more time. She pretended to think for a minute, then slowly wrote out the calculations. But Dohyun was watching her carefully. His large eyes missed nothing. How did you know that formula? He asked quietly. I studied navigation in my free time, Mira said. It was a weak excuse and they both knew it. The formula she had used was advanced mathematics that took most species years to learn. Professor Nam was also watching her. His Valdorian senses could detect emotions and stress levels. Mira realized with growing fear that her readings were all wrong. She was not showing the stress patterns of a frightened Catherian. She was showing the patterns of a predator in hunt mode. As the hours passed, the repairs slowly worked. The life support improved. The navigation came back online. The radiation storm missed them by a narrow margin. But Mira knew the damage was done. She had acted too much like herself. She had revealed abilities that no Catherian should have. She had shown leadership and problem-solving skills that would make people ask questions. When the rescue ships finally arrived, Mira was exhausted. Not from the work, but from trying to hide what she really was. She had saved her classmates, but she might have doomed herself. As they transferred to the rescue ship, Dohyun sat next to her. That was incredible work back there, he said. Everyone helped, Mira replied. Yes, but you were different. You were like someone else entirely. Mira's blood went cold. She forced herself to smile like a tired Catherian would. Crisis brings out unexpected things in people. Dohyun nodded, but his expression remained thoughtful. Mira knew he would be thinking about what he had seen. She knew her perfect disguise was starting to crack. The question was how long she had before it shattered completely. 3 days passed after the rescue. Mira sat in the Academy Medical Center, while Dr. Hess ran tests on all the students who had been exposed to radiation. The Altarian doctor's 6 arms moved quickly as she checked readings and took samples. Your recovery is remarkable, Miss Lee, Dr. Hess said, looking at her scanner. Most Catherians show radiation effects for weeks after exposure. You seem completely healthy. Mira forced herself to look tired. I feel fine, doctor. Maybe I was not exposed as much as the others, but that was not true and she knew it. She had been in the most dangerous areas of the ship. She had worked directly with damaged equipment that was leaking radiation. Any normal person should be sick or dying by now. Dr. Hess made notes on her datapad. Well, you are free to return to classes, but come back if you feel any symptoms. Mira left the medical center and walked through the academy halls. Students whispered as she passed. Word had spread about what happened on the transport ship. Everyone knew she had helped organize the rescue efforts, but whispers made her nervous. Attention was dangerous for someone with a secret like hers. She entered her advanced physics class and took her usual seat. Do-hyun was already there, working on equations at his desk. He looked up when she sat down but said nothing. His crystalline face was hard to read, but Mira felt like he was studying her. During the lesson, Professor Vane discussed quantum mechanics and particle behavior. Mira listened carefully but noticed Do-hyun was not paying attention to the teacher. Instead, he was running calculations on his personal datapad. The numbers looked like biological formulas, not physics equations. After class, Mira packed her books quickly. She wanted to leave before Do-hyun could talk to her. But he was faster. Mira, wait, he called as she reached the door. Can we talk? I need to get to my next class, she said. This will only take a minute. Reluctantly, Mira followed him to an empty study room. Do-hyun closed the door behind them and activated the privacy screen. Now no one could hear their conversation. I've been thinking about what happened on the ship, Do-hyun said. Mira's heart beat faster, but she kept her expression calm. It was scary. But we all worked together and survived. Yes, we did. But some things do not make sense. Do-hyun pulled out his datapad and showed her a chart. These are radiation exposure readings from the emergency sensors on the ship. The chart showed different colored lines representing each student. Most lines climbed high and stayed high, showing dangerous radiation levels. But one line was different. It climbed at first but then dropped and stayed low. This line represents someone who was exposed to high radiation, but whose body adapted to it quickly, Do-hyun explained. Too quickly for any known species. Mira looked at the chart but said nothing. She could not think of a good explanation that would not make things worse. There is more, Do-hyun continued. He showed her another screen. I analyzed the repair work we did. You solved engineering problems that should have taken hours of calculation. But you did them in minutes. I was lucky. Sometimes the answers just come to you. No, Mira, these were not lucky guesses. These were solutions that required advanced knowledge and fast thinking. Faster than Cytherian brains can process. Do-hyun set down his datapad and looked directly at her. I ran your biodata through the Academy database. Your genetic markers do not match any known Cytherian patterns. Fear shot through Mira like ice water. She stood up quickly. That is impossible. Of course I am Cytherian, are you? Do-hyun asked softly. Before Mira could answer, the study room door opened. Yuna and Minsu walked in together. They both looked serious. We need to talk, Yuna said. Her golden eyes were sad. All of us, Minsu closed the door behind them. Do-hyun shared his findings with us. We have been doing research of our own. Mira felt trapped. Her three best friends were all looking at her with expressions of concern and curiosity. There was no way to run and nowhere to hide. Research about what? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Yuna sat down across from her. About the species that was destroyed 50 years ago. The species the galaxy fears more than any other. Humans, Minsu said simply. The word hung in the air like a weapon. Mira felt her carefully built world crashing down around her. For 3 years she had hidden among these people. Now they knew what she was. That is ridiculous, she said, but her voice shook. Humans are extinct. Everyone knows that, are they? Do-hyun asked. He activated his datapad again. This time it showed historical records. I found archived data about the human purge. The records say all humans were eliminated, but there are gaps in the documentation. Gaps? Mira asked despite herself. Missing data about outer colonies, deep space settlements, places that might have been overlooked during the purge. Minsu leaned forward, places where human children might have survived. Yuna reached across the table and touched Mira's hand. We know this is frightening, but we need you to tell us the truth. Mira looked at their faces. These were her friends. They had shared meals with her, studied with her, laughed with her. They had become the family she lost when her parents died. But they were also members of the galaxy that had tried to kill every human alive. How could she trust them with the truth that could get her killed? I do not know what you want me to say, she whispered. Do-hyun pulled up another file on his datapad. This is from the Galactic Archives. It describes why humans were eliminated. The file showed images of human colonies, cities that looked like nothing else in the galaxy, technology that seemed impossible, ships that could travel faster than anyone thought possible. According to these records, humans were not evil, Do-hyun read aloud. They were just better than everyone else at everything they tried. They adapted too quickly. They learned too fast. They competed too well. The other species could not keep up, Minsu added. Human colonies became more successful than anyone else. Human traders got better deals. Human scientists made discoveries that changed entire fields of study. The Galactic Council decided that humans were a threat to the balance of civilization, Yuna said softly. So they destroyed them all. Mira stared at the datapad screen. She had never seen these records before. Her parents had died before they could tell her much about human history. She had learned to hide her nature, but she had never learned why it was necessary to hide. 50 years ago, the galaxy united for the first and only time, Do-hyun continued. Every species, every government, every military force worked together to hunt down and kill every single human. But they missed some, Minsu said, looking directly at Mira. They missed the children who were hidden away in places no one thought to look. Tears ran down Mira's face. The weight of 3 years of hiding was crushing her. The fear of discovery had been her constant companion. Now it was over. We are not going to hurt you, Yuna said gently. We are your friends. We care about you. But we need to know the truth, Do-hyun added. Are you human? Mira looked at each of their faces. She saw curiosity but not hatred, concern but not fear. These people had risked their own safety to research forbidden historical records. They had done it not to expose her but to understand her. Maybe, just maybe, she could trust them with the truth that had been burning inside her for so long. Yes, she whispered. I am human. Silence filled the study room after Mira spoke the truth. Her 3 friends stared at her with wide eyes. She had finally said the words that could get her killed. She was human. Yuna was the first to move. She reached across the table and took Mira's hands in hers. Thank you for trusting us, she said softly. Mira pulled her hands away and stood up quickly. You do not understand what this means. If anyone finds out, they will kill me. They will kill anyone who helped me. Sit down, Minsu said in his calm, logical voice. We need to talk about this properly. But Mira could not sit. Her human instincts were screaming at her to run. For 3 years she had lived in fear of this moment. Now it was happening and she did not know how to handle it. I should leave the academy, she said, pacing around the small room. I should disappear before someone else figures it out. No, Do-hyun said firmly. Running will not solve anything. We need to understand what is happening here. Mira stopped pacing and looked at him. What do you mean? Do-hyun activated his data pad again. I want to know more about you. About where you came from. About how you survived when everyone thought humans were extinct. Why? Mira asked. Why do you care? You should be afraid of me. Everyone else in the galaxy would be. Because you are our friend, Yuna said simply. Because you saved our lives on that transport ship. Because you have been nothing but kind to us for 3 years. Mira felt tears in her eyes again. She had been alone for so long. Even among her friends, she had been alone with her secret. Now they knew the truth and they were not running away. Tell us your real story, Minsu said. Tell us how you survived. Mira sat down slowly. She had never told anyone her full story before. The few other human survivors she knew were scattered across the galaxy. They communicated rarely and carefully. She had been carrying this burden alone. My real name is Park Mira, she began. I was born on a hidden colony called Haven. It was built in a dead solar system where nobody ever went. My parents were part of a group that escaped Earth before the purge began. How many people were on this colony? Do-hyun asked. About 2,000 when I was born. But the number kept getting smaller. Mira's voice became quiet. Living in hiding was hard. Many people got sick from the stress. Others gave up hope and just died. Some went crazy from being trapped. What happened to your parents? Yuna asked gently. When I was 8, somebody betrayed our location to the Galactic Council. Fleet ships came to destroy the colony. My parents put me in an escape pod with life support for 10 days. They told me they would come get me when it was safe. Mira wiped tears from her eyes. I waited in that pod for 9 days before a smuggler found me. The colony was gone. Everyone was dead. The smuggler was scared when he realized what I was, but he was kind. He took me to a doctor who gave me these implants. She touched the side of her neck where the biomimetic devices were hidden under her skin. The doctor taught me how to act like a Cytherian. He said it was the best disguise because Cytherians are peaceful and quiet. Nobody suspects them of being dangerous. How many other survivors are there? Minsu asked. I do not know exactly. Maybe 50. Maybe 100. We do not stay in contact very much because it is too dangerous. But there are a few others scattered around the galaxy. Do-hyun leaned forward. Mira, do you know why humans were really eliminated? Because we were dangerous, she said automatically. No. Do-hyun shook his head. I read the real records. Humans were eliminated because you were too good at everything. Too adaptive. Too creative. Too determined. He showed her his data pad again. This time it displayed economic data from 50 years ago. Look at these numbers. Human colonies had the strongest economies. Human scientists made discoveries faster than anyone else. Human traders negotiated better deals. Human engineers built better ships. We were not trying to conquer anyone, Mira said, reading the data. We were just trying to live. Exactly, Yuna said. But other species felt threatened. They could not compete with human achievements. So instead of trying to learn from humans, they decided to destroy them. Minsu pulled up another file. The Galactic Council meeting records from 51 years ago. They debated what to do about the human problem for months. Mira read the translated text on the screen. The words made her feel sick. Council members from dozens of species had voted on whether her entire race should be allowed to exist. They called humans an invasive species, she read aloud. They said we would eventually take over the galaxy if we were not stopped. But they were wrong, Do-hyun said. Humans were not trying to take over anything. You were just very good at surviving and adapting. Maybe too good, Mira said bitterly. Maybe they were right to be afraid. No, Yuna said firmly. They were wrong. You have been here for 3 years and you have never hurt anyone. You saved lives on that transport ship. You are kind and helpful and smart. There is nothing dangerous about you. But Mira shook her head. You do not understand. I've been holding back for 3 years. Everything you know about me is fake. I am not really quiet and peaceful like Cytherians. I am not weak or gentle. Then show us, Do-hyun said. Show us who you really are. I cannot. If I stop controlling myself, if I stop hiding my nature, you will see why the galaxy was afraid. We want to see, Minsu said. We want to understand. Mira looked at their faces. They seemed sincere, but she was not sure they understood what they were asking. Humans were built differently than other species. Their minds worked faster. Their bodies were stronger. Their spirits never gave up even when they should. For 3 years she had been pretending to be someone else. She had learned to walk slower, think slower, react slower. She had suppressed every natural instinct that made her human. You might not like what you see, she warned them. We are willing to take that risk, Yuna said. Mira took a deep breath. Slowly she let herself relax the careful control she had maintained for so long. Her posture straightened. Her eyes became more alert. Her movements became more fluid and confident. This is me, she said, and her voice was different now, stronger and clearer. This is what a human looks like when we stop pretending to be something else. Her friends stared at her with fascination. Even just standing normally, she looked different. More alive, more present, more dangerous in a way that was hard to define. Now I understand, Do-hyun said quietly. Now I see why they were afraid. Are you afraid? Mira asked. Do-hyun thought for a moment. No, I am amazed. You have been hiding all of this for 3 years just to fit in with us. The real question, Minsu said logically, is what do we do now? Mira felt a chill of fear again. What do you mean? Now that we know the truth, what happens next? Yuna explained. Do you keep hiding? Do you tell others? Do you try to find the other survivors? Mira had not thought beyond this moment. She had been so focused on keeping her secret that she never planned for what would happen if it came out. I do not know, she admitted. I never expected to have to make that choice. But the choice was about to be made for her. Outside the study room, footsteps were approaching. Someone was coming who would change everything. The study room door burst open. Professor Nam Tae-hyun stood in the doorway with 2 Academy security guards behind him. His blue Valdorian face showed worry and determination. "Miss Lee," he said formally, "please come with us immediately." Mira's heart stopped. She looked at her friends with panic in her eyes. Had someone overheard their conversation? Had the professor been listening outside the door? "Is something wrong, Professor?" Do-hyun asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "That is not your concern," Professor Nam replied. "Miss Lee, you need to come with us now." Mira stood up slowly. Her human instincts told her to run or fight. But running would only prove she was guilty of something. Fighting would reveal what she really was. "Can my friends come with me?" she asked. "No. This matter concerns only you." The security guards moved closer. They were both large Krex warriors with thick armor and energy weapons. Mira realized she could probably defeat them both if she stopped holding back her human abilities, but that would create more problems than it solved. "I will come," she said quietly. Yuna stood up quickly. "Where are you taking her?" "To the Academy Council chambers," Professor Nam said. "There are questions that need answers." As they walked through the hallways, students stopped to stare. Word traveled fast in the Academy. By now, everyone probably knew that Mira was being taken away by security. Some students looked curious. Others looked afraid. They entered the main administration building and took an elevator to the top floor. Mira had never been to the council chambers before. The room was huge with a circular table in the center. 12 chairs surrounded the table, one for each species represented on the Academy Council. Only half the chairs were filled. The council members present included Director Halls, a stern Altarian woman who ran the academy. Next to her sat Counselor Vex, the Krex instructor who taught combat classes. 3 other professors from different species were also present. "Miss Lee," Director Halls said as Mira entered. "Please sit down." There was a single chair in the center of the circle. Mira sat down and tried to look calm. She felt like she was surrounded by predators, even though most of these species were peaceful. "We have received concerning reports about your behavior during the recent emergency," Director Halls began. "Several witnesses noted unusual abilities and responses that do not match your species profile." Mira's mouth went dry. "I do not understand what you mean, Director." Counselor Vex leaned forward. His massive Krex frame made the chair look tiny. "During the transport crisis, you showed leadership abilities that Catherians do not possess. You worked in high radiation areas without protective gear. You solved complex problems faster than should be possible for your species." "I was just trying to help," Mira said. "Yes, but how you helped is the question," Professor Nam added. "I monitored your bio readings during the crisis. Your stress responses were completely wrong for a Catherian. Your radiation tolerance was impossible for any known peaceful species." Director Halls activated a large display screen. It showed medical data and genetic scans. "We ran additional tests on your blood samples from the medical check after the rescue. The results are very disturbing." Mira stared at the screen. She could see her genetic markers displayed in detail. Some of them had been altered by her biomimetic implants, but others were showing through as purely human. "These genetic patterns do not match any species in our database," Counselor Vex said, "but they do match fragments of DNA found at archaeological sites marked as extinct apex predator species." The room became very quiet. Mira could hear her own heartbeat. They knew. Maybe they did not have complete proof yet, but they knew enough to be dangerous, Miss Lee. Director Halls said softly, "We need you to tell us the truth. What species are you really?" Mira looked around the circle of faces. Some showed curiosity, others showed fear, a few showed anger. None of them showed the understanding and acceptance she had seen from her friends. "I am Catherian," she said. "My genetic scans must be corrupted somehow." "That is not possible," Professor Nam said. "These readings are too clear and too consistent to be errors." Counselor Vex stood up, making himself even more intimidating. "We know what you are. The question is whether you will admit it or force us to prove it." "I do not know what you want me to say," Mira replied. Director Halls touched a control on the table. More data appeared on the screen. This time it showed historical records about the human purge. 50 years ago, the Galactic Council eliminated a species that posed a threat to galactic stability. She read aloud. "These beings were called humans. They were declared extinct after a comprehensive elimination campaign." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Mira felt trapped and scared. But she also felt something else building inside her. Anger. These people were threatening her because of what she was, not because of anything she had done. However, Director Halls continued, recent intelligence suggests that some humans may have survived in hidden colonies. If such survivors exist, they represent a significant security threat to all peaceful species. We believe you are one of these survivors, Counselor Vex said bluntly. We believe you are human. Mira's anger grew stronger. For 3 years she had hidden her nature to fit in with these people. She had suppressed everything that made her who she was. She had lived in constant fear just to be accepted. Now they were accusing her of being a threat simply for existing. Even if I was human, she said carefully, what would that matter? I have never hurt anyone here. I have been a good student. I helped save lives during the emergency. That is exactly the problem, Professor Nam said. Humans are dangerous because they are so capable. Your helpfulness and competence are what make you a threat. That makes no sense, Mira said, her voice getting stronger. It makes perfect sense, Counselor Vex replied. Humans adapt too quickly. They solve problems too well. They compete too effectively. If even one human is allowed to live freely, it could start another population explosion. Mira stood up from her chair. Her human instincts were taking over despite her efforts to stay calm. So you want to punish me for being good at things? We want to determine if you are a threat, Director Hall said. And if you are human, the answer is yes by definition. The Academy Council has decided to test you, Professor Nam announced. If you are truly Catherian, you will have no trouble with species-appropriate challenges. If you are something else, the tests will reveal your true nature. What kind of tests? Mira asked. Counselor Vex smiled, showing his sharp Crex teeth. The Crucible. 7 trials designed to push different species to their absolute limits. No student has ever completed all 7 because each trial targets different biological capabilities. If you are Catherian, you will fail most of the trials. Director Halls explained. That failure will prove your identity and clear your name. And if I am not Catherian? Mira asked. Then you will succeed at trials no single species should be able to complete, Professor Nam said. And that will prove you are human. Mira realized the trap they had set for her. If she failed the trials, she might still be suspected. If she succeeded, she would be proven human and probably killed. When do these trials begin? She asked. Tomorrow morning, Counselor Vex said. And Miss Lee, the trials will be broadcast to the entire academy. Everyone will see your performance. Mira felt a chill of fear. Not only would she be tested, but hundreds of students would watch her either reveal her true nature or fail in humiliation. You may return to your dormitory now, Director Hall said, but you will be under constant surveillance until the trials are complete. As Mira left the council chambers, she realized her peaceful life at the academy was over. Tomorrow she would have to choose between hiding her abilities and accepting defeat, or showing what humans could really do and facing the consequences. Either way, everything was about to change. Mira stood in the preparation chamber early the next morning. Through the clear walls, she could see the arena where the Crucible trials would take place. Hundreds of students filled the viewing stands. Their excited voices echoed through the massive space. Her 3 friends sat in the front row. Yuna looked worried. Do-hyun was studying something on his data pad. Minsu watched her with his calm, logical expression. They had tried to visit her the night before, but the security guards would not let them through. Director Halls entered the preparation chamber with Professor Nam and Counselor Vex. Behind them came several other instructors carrying monitoring equipment. Miss Lee, Director Hall said, the trials will begin in 10 minutes. Are you ready? Mira took a deep breath. She had spent the night thinking about her choice. She could try to fail the trials on purpose and hope they believed she was really Catherian, or she could stop hiding and show them what humans were truly capable of. The second choice was terrifying, but the first choice was a lie she was tired of living. I am ready, she said. Professor Nam attached sensors to her arms and head. These will monitor your vital signs and physical responses during each trial. The data will be displayed for all observers to see. Counselor Vex activated a large screen that showed the 7 trial chambers. Each one was designed to test different species' abilities: physical endurance, mental flexibility, environmental adaptation, social manipulation, technical innovation, strategic thinking, and finally, survival instinct. Remember, Director Hall said, no student has ever completed all 7 trials. Each one is designed around the peak capabilities of different species. Attempting all 7 would be impossible for any single being, unless that being was human, Counselor Vex added quietly. The arena doors opened, and Mira walked out into the bright lights. The crowd of students grew quiet as she entered. Some pointed at her and whispered. Others stared with curiosity or fear. A voice echoed through the arena speakers. Beginning Trial 1, Physical Endurance, designed for Gorvani physiology. The first chamber was a combat simulation room. Holographic enemies appeared as soon as Mira entered. They moved fast and hit hard. The trial was designed to last until the subject collapsed from exhaustion. Most Gorvani students could fight for 12 to 18 hours before their bodies gave out. Other species usually lasted much less time. Mira began fighting the holographic opponents. At first, she moved carefully like she had been taught in combat class. Slow and defensive like a Catherian would fight. But as the hours passed and more enemies appeared, she realized that approach would not work. If she wanted to survive this trial, she had to fight like a human. She stopped holding back. Her movements became faster and more aggressive. She anticipated attacks before they happened. She found weaknesses in her opponents and exploited them ruthlessly. Her human body adapted to the constant fighting, getting stronger instead of weaker as time passed. 12 hours passed. Then 18. Then 24. The crowd in the stands had grown quiet with amazement. Even Gorvani students were staring in disbelief. No one could fight for this long without rest. At 36 hours, the simulation finally ended. Mira was still standing. She was tired but not defeated. The monitoring equipment showed that her body was operating at peak efficiency, despite the incredible duration of combat. Trial 1 complete, the voice announced. Beginning Trial 2, Mental Flexibility, designed for Xyrillian cognitive patterns. The second chamber contained complex puzzles that changed their rules constantly. The goal was to adapt thinking patterns in real time as problems evolved. Most Xyrillian students could handle this for several hours before their minds became too confused to continue. Mira entered the chamber and began working on the puzzles. At first, they seemed impossible. But her human brain was designed for exactly this kind of challenge. Humans had survived on Earth by adapting to constantly changing conditions. She found herself enjoying the mental exercise. Each time the rules changed, she figured out the new pattern faster than before. Her mind was not just adapting to the changes, it was learning to predict them. 6 hours into the trial, she was solving puzzles faster than the system could generate them. The Xyrillian instructors in the viewing stands were making excited musical sounds. They had never seen cognitive adaptation at this level. Trial 2 complete, the voice announced. Beginning Trial 3, Environmental Adaptation, designed for Catherian survival instincts. The third chamber simulated rapidly changing hostile environments. Extreme heat followed by extreme cold. High radiation followed by toxic atmosphere. Crushing gravity followed by zero gravity. This trial was designed to test how well a species could survive in conditions their evolution had not prepared them for. Most beings could only adapt to a few changes before their bodies failed. But human evolution was different. Humans had spread across an entire planet with dozens of different climates and conditions. They were built to adapt to anything. As the environment changed around her, Mira felt her body responding automatically. When the temperature dropped, her metabolism increased to generate heat. When radiation levels rose, her cells began repairing damage as fast as it occurred. When gravity shifted, her balance and muscle tone adjusted instantly. The trial ran for 8 hours. Mira not only survived every environmental change, she thrived in conditions that would kill most species within minutes. Trial 3 complete, the voice announced. By now, the crowd in the viewing stands was completely silent. Everyone understood what they were witnessing. This was not a Catherian student struggling through difficult tests. This was something else entirely. Beginning Trial 4, Social Manipulation, designed for Valdorian empathic abilities. The fourth chamber contained holographic representations of different species. The goal was to understand their motivations and influence their behavior through careful social interaction. Mira had been watching and learning from different species for 3 years. She understood how they thought and what they feared. She knew how to read their body language and predict their reactions. The trial involved negotiating with hostile alien leaders, forming alliances between opposing groups, and resolving conflicts that seemed impossible to solve. Mira succeeded at every challenge. Her human ability to understand and predict behavior gave her advantages that even natural empaths could not match. Trial 4 complete. Beginning Trial 5, Technical Innovation. Academy Original Design. The fifth chamber presented engineering problems with insufficient resources. The goal was to create solutions using only limited materials and tools. This was perhaps the most human challenge of all. Throughout history, humans had been forced to make do with whatever they could find. They had learned to turn scrap metal into spaceships and basic chemicals into advanced medicines. Mira looked at the broken equipment and random materials in the chamber. Other students would see junk. She saw possibilities. Within hours, she had built functioning devices from discarded parts. She created tools that should not have worked but did. She solved problems by thinking in ways the test designers had never considered. Trial 5 complete. Beginning Trial 6, Strategic Thinking. Multi-species warfare simulation. The sixth chamber was a complex military strategy game. The goal was to command forces from different species in battle against superior enemies. Humans had become dominant in space not through superior technology, but through superior strategy. They thought in ways other species could not predict or counter. Mira studied the battlefield situation and began making moves that seemed random to observers. But every action was part of a larger plan that only became clear as victory approached. She won battles that should have been impossible to win. She turned disadvantages into advantages and weaknesses into strengths. Trial 6 complete. The voice announced. Only one trial remained. The crowd in the viewing stands was completely stunned. No one had ever completed 6 trials before, let alone succeeded at all of them. Mira looked up at her friends in the front row. They were staring at her with amazement and pride. They were seeing her true nature for the first time, and they were not afraid. Beginning Trial 7. Survival Instinct. The Council's secret trial. The final chamber was different from the others. It was designed not to test abilities, but to break the will to live. It created scenarios of hopeless despair designed to make subjects give up and accept defeat. This was what the galaxy feared most about humans. Not their strength or intelligence, but their absolute refusal to accept that anything was impossible. As the trial began, Mira felt the familiar human stubbornness rise within her. Whatever this chamber threw at her, she would find a way to survive. She would find a way to win. Because that was what humans did. They never gave up. The 7th trial chamber was empty when Mira entered. No equipment, no puzzles, no enemies to fight. Just a small room with white walls and a single chair in the center. She sat down and waited. The monitoring equipment showed her vital signs to the watching crowd. Her heart rate was steady. Her breathing was calm. After completing 6 impossible trials, she looked ready for whatever came next. A voice spoke from hidden speakers. Not the same mechanical voice that had announced the other trials. This voice was different, older, sadder. "Hello, human," the voice said. Gasps echoed through the viewing stands. The word human had been spoken aloud in front of hundreds of students. There was no hiding anymore. "You have done well in the trials," the voice continued. "You have shown abilities that no single species should possess. You have proven what the galaxy feared 50 years ago." "Who are you?" Mira asked. "I am Counselor Prime Zen. I was part of the original Galactic Council that decided the fate of your species. I have been waiting 50 years for this moment." The walls of the chamber began to change. Images appeared showing human colonies from before the purge. Cities full of life and happiness. Families working together. Children playing in parks. "These were your people," Counselor Prime Zen said. "They were not evil. They were not cruel. They were simply too good at everything they tried." More images appeared. Human scientists making discoveries. Human engineers building impossible structures. Human traders negotiating deals that benefited everyone. Human explorers finding new worlds. In 10 years, humans went from first contact to controlling 3 star systems, the voice explained. Not through conquest. Through being better than everyone else at everything that mattered. Mira watched the images of her people with tears in her eyes. She had never seen what human civilization looked like before the purge. Her parents had died before they could tell her these stories. The other species tried to compete, Counselor Prime Zen continued, but they could not match human adaptability. Human economies grew faster. Human technology advanced quicker. Human colonies succeeded where others failed. The images changed to show council meetings from 50 years ago. representatives from dozens of species arguing about what to do about the human problem. Some council members wanted to learn from humans. Others wanted to trade with them. But the majority decided that humans were an existential threat to galactic diversity. So you killed them all? Mira said quietly. We tried to. The vote was close. 47 species voted for elimination. 31 voted against. 8 abstained. It was the only time in galactic history that so many species agreed on anything. The walls showed images of the human purge, fleet ships attacking colonies, cities burning, people running in terror. Mira had to look away. We thought we had succeeded completely, the voice said. For 50 years we believed humans were extinct. The galaxy celebrated the elimination of a threat to balance and stability. But you were wrong, Mira said. Yes, we missed the hidden colonies. We missed the children who were saved by desperate parents. We missed survivors like you who learned to hide among us. The images faded and the walls returned to white. Mira sat alone in the empty room waiting for whatever came next. This final trial is not about testing your abilities, Counselor Prime Zen explained. It is about testing your spirit. It is about discovering whether humans have learned anything from their near extinction. What do you mean? I am going to show you something that will break most beings. I am going to show you the truth about what your survival means for the galaxy. The walls changed again. This time they showed current galactic statistics, economic data, scientific progress reports, social stability measurements. Since the human purge, galactic civilization has stagnated, the voice said. Scientific discoveries have slowed to almost nothing. Economic growth has flatlined. Exploration of new worlds has nearly stopped. Mira studied the data with growing understanding. Without human competition and innovation, the rest of the galaxy had become comfortable and lazy. The species that voted to eliminate humans did so because they feared being left behind. Counselor Prime Zen continued. But without humans to challenge them, they stopped trying to improve. More data appeared. Disease outbreaks that could have been prevented with better medical research. Engineering problems that remained unsolved because no one pushed for breakthrough solutions. Trade disputes that continued for decades because no one found creative compromises. The galaxy needs humans, the voice said, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as partners who refuse to accept that anything is impossible. Then why are you telling me this? Mira asked. Because you have a choice to make, the same choice your species faced 50 years ago. The data on the walls changed to show 2 possible futures. In one, humans remained hidden and the galaxy continued to decline slowly. In the other, humans returned openly and civilization began advancing again. If you choose to return to hiding, the few human survivors will eventually die out. The galaxy will never know what it lost. Civilization will continue its slow decline into comfortable mediocrity. And if I choose the other path? If you reveal yourself publicly, if you prove that humans can coexist peacefully with other species, then the survivors can stop hiding. You can help solve the problems that have been building for 50 years. Mira looked up at the ceiling where she knew cameras were watching her. What makes you think the galaxy will accept us this time? Because this time will be different. This time humans will not be trying to compete with other species. You will be trying to help them. The voice paused. But I must warn you, choosing this path means giving up your quiet life. It means accepting responsibility for the future of both humans and the galaxy. It means risking everything on the hope that fear can be overcome by cooperation. And if I am wrong, if the galaxy still wants to destroy us, then at least you will face that challenge as yourself instead of as someone you are pretending to be. Mira stood up from the chair and walked to the center of the room. Through the walls, she could see her friends in the viewing stands. Yuna was crying but smiling. Doyun was taking notes on his datapad. Minsu was watching her with his logical expression that meant he was thinking hard about something important. Hundreds of other students were also watching. Some looked afraid. Others looked curious. A few looked excited about the possibilities. Counselor Prime Zen, Mira said clearly. I am Park Mira. I am 18 years old. I am a survivor of the human genocide, and I choose to stop hiding. The crowd in the viewing stands erupted in noise. Some students cheered. Others argued. Teachers tried to maintain order but failed. I choose to help, Mira continued. I choose to work with anyone who wants to build a better galaxy. I choose to prove that humans and other species can be partners instead of competitors. The chamber door opened. Director Halls entered with several Academy security guards, but instead of arresting Mira, they formed a protective circle around her. "Miss Mira," Director Halls said formally, "the Academy Council has voted, by a margin of 8-4, we have decided to offer you sanctuary and protection." "What does that mean?" "It means you will continue your education here. It means you will help us understand how humans can contribute to galactic civilization, and it means you will be safe while we work out the political details with the Galactic Council." Professor Nam entered the chamber next. "The trials have been broadcast across the galaxy," he said. 3 species have already sent messages requesting human assistance with unsolved problems." "What kind of problems?" Mira asked. "The kind that requires someone who refuses to accept that anything is impossible," he replied with a smile. As they left the trial chamber, Mira's 3 friends rushed to meet her. Yuna hugged her tightly. Do-hyun showed her his data pad full of notes about human capabilities. Minsu simply nodded and said, "Logical choice." "Are you afraid of me now?" Mira asked them. "No," Yuna said. "We are proud of you. You stopped pretending to be someone else and showed us who you really are. Besides," Do-hyun added, "we already knew you were special. Now we know why." Walking through the academy halls, Mira felt different. For the first time in 10 years, she was not hiding what she was. Students pointed and whispered as she passed, but she was not ashamed anymore. Her emergency transmitter buzzed quietly. Messages were coming in from other human survivors across the galaxy. They had seen the trials. They knew it was safe to reveal themselves. After 50 years of hiding, humans were about to return to galactic civilization, not as conquerors or competitors, but as partners who could help solve problems that had seemed impossible. Mira smiled as she walked toward her next class. She had work to do.